Hey boys and girls, it's Miss Pfeiffer. Today we're going to be doing fractions on a number line. How can fractions be used to represent numbers and their parts? Marcus, Shar, and Jenny each said they colored 1/4 of their square. Is this true? Explain. So I have Marcus right here, Shar, and Jenny. So 1/4 of their square will be 1 part out of 4. So Marcus has 4 parts. So I'm going to make the denominator 4. Shar has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. And Jenny has 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, Marcus shaded in 1, 2, 3 out of the 4 parts. Shar shaded in 1, 2 out of the 8 parts. And Jenny shaded in 1 out of the 4 parts. So Jenny definitely did shade in 1/4 of her square. Marcus shaded in 3 parts of 4. So Marcus did not. Shar is the one I'm confused on because she shaded in 2 parts, but she shaded in 2 parts out of 8, and if I look at it, it looks like it makes a square just like in this one. So I'm thinking 2 parts out of 8 is equal to 1/4. So Shar also colored in 1/4 of her square because 2/8 is the same as 1/4. Because those two triangles made a square like in Jenny's. The next slide, Now we want to look at building the fractions. So these are the fractions 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3 on a number line. So you start at the left at the 0, place a 1/3 fraction tile on the number line. So I'm going to drag my fraction tile. Trace the tile and shade in the figure. We're just going to leave our tile there. What fraction does the shaded area represent? I only have how much? I have 1/3. I only shaded in 1/3. So this first part on the number line is 1/3. Now it says place a second and third 1/3 tile above the number line next to the shaded figure. So I'm going to place, that's my first one. I'm going to place a second and a third 1/3 tile above the number line next to the shaded figure. Trace the tile, shade in the figures. What fraction do the first 2 shaded areas represent together? So 1, 2 out of 3, that would be 2/3. So here it would be 2/3 because 2 tiles represents 2/3. What fraction do all 3 shaded areas represent? 1, 2, 3. That represents 3/3. How many parts does each fraction represent? So 1/3 is just 1 part. 2/3 is 2 parts. And then 3/3 would be 3 parts, or the whole thing. Locate the fractions 1/3 and 2/3 on the number line. One endpoint of the fraction tile that represents 1/3 is at 0. Make a tick mark on the number line to show the other endpoint. Label the fractions. So if I put my 1/3 in here, that means this point would be 1/3. So I want you to figure out, what do you think this one is? If I put my 1/3 right there, that first point is 1/3. Put my second fraction tile down, this one would be 2/3. And then my end is 3/3. 3/3. I have a whole. When my number on the top and number on the bottom are the same, that equals 1 whole. One endpoint of the two fraction tiles that represent 2/3 is at 0. Make a tick mark on the number line to show the other endpoint. Label the fraction. Okay, so this 0, that's 0. Then there's 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, and 3/3 is the same as 1. Now let's talk about it. Where would you place the tick mark for the fraction 3/3? Well, we said that 3/3 is the same as 1. So we would place the tick mark on the number 1 because 3/3 is the same. Miss Pfeiffer having trouble typing. Because 3/3 is the same as 1 whole. So we would place the tick mark on the number 1 because 3/3 is the same as 1 whole. That's what that question is asking. Now this one, Sam is making a number line and wants to mark a point for 3/4 on the number line. Into how many parts should he divide the number line? Explain. Okay, I'm going to go back to this number line. And we had this one into thirds. So it was broken into 1, 2, 3 parts. The number on the bottom was thirds, and it was broken into 1, 2, 3 parts. So now I'm looking at this one, and it says he wants to make it for 3/4. How many parts should he divide the number line? How many parts do you think he should divide it into? Okay, good. He should divide the number line. Sam, should divide the number line into 4 parts because 4/4 equals 1 whole. Okay, and the denominator also tells you how many parts. The denominator tells how many parts the number line should be broken into. Suppose Lisa makes a number line from 0 to 1. Then she divides the number line into 8 parts. What 7 fractions will she place on each tick mark between 0 and 1? So I want to divide it into 8 parts. I need to start at 0. That's not a part. And I'm going to end at 1 whole. 1 whole is the same. I'm dividing it into 8 parts. So 1 whole will be the same as 8/8. So as I'm making my number line, I'm ending when I get on 8, and I'm starting at 0. So you're just counting. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I want to go back and I want to write my fractions. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, okay, and I just keep going. So what 7 fractions will she place at each tick mark between 0 and 1? So I'm just counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you think will come next? 5. 5/8. 6/8. 7/8. So when Miss Pfeiffer has to make a number line and it gives me the parts, I always put my whole. what would my whole fraction be? 8 over 8, and I make sure to put my 0. That helps me count. So my fractions are 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and 7/8. Those are my fractions that are between 0 and 1. So I didn't write a sentence with this one, I made a number line. Okay, now let's practice. Label each unknown with the fraction of the whole it represents. Okay, so this is 6/6. So I have 1/6, and they labeled it all 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, 1/6. They kind of did that to trick you. So you're going to count. So this is 1/6, 2/6, 3/6. So this will be 4/6, 5/6, 6/6. Okay, and then this one, 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts, and here I have 1, 2, 3 parts. Now if I go back to this one, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts. Each time I'm dividing the number line, my denominator tells me how many parts. So I have 6 parts, 3 parts. Let's look at this one. Label the fractions on the number line between 0 and 1. So this is 0 and this is 2 over 2. So I know my bottom number is going to be 2 because it's divided into 2 parts. So this is 1 out of 2. This will be 2 out of 2. So I know that this number will be 1 out of 2. Will be 1/2. That's 1/2 of my number line. Now this one isn't divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. I can also tell that because the 4 on the bottom, the denominator is 4. So I know my denominator for both of these is going to be 4. This is 1/4, so this will be 2/4. So what do you think would come next? Good, 3/4. Right, now this one has a lot more, but I can see on my bottom number, my denominator is 8. So I know my denominator is going to be 8 in each tick mark. 8, 8, 8, 8. Then I started at 0, so I know that this tick mark would be 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and then 8/8, and then 8 out of 8, which is 1 whole. Now let's see if we can do it in a word problem. There are 6 students in the science lab. 4 of the students are girls. Label the fraction on the number line which represents the number of students that are girls. Right, so how many students are there all together? That's going to be my denominator. There are 6 students all together, and it wants me to label the ones that are girls. Well, it told me 4 of the students are girls. So my numerator is the number of girls. How many girls did it tell me? Good, 4. So my fraction that I'm labeling is 4 out of 6. Well, I know this will be 1 out of 6, 2 out of 6, 3 out of 6. Oh, here it is. This would be 4 out of 6. So this is how many girls were in, how many students, how many girls that were in this science lab. Okay. Why are number lines helpful models to use and represent fractions? So let's just think about that. Why would we use a number line to represent fractions? How did this help us? It helped us because it showed us a picture. It broke it down into helpful parts. Okay, so a number line is a helpful tool because it breaks the fractions down into a visual. Okay, so a number line is a helpful tool because it's a visual for you to see how many parts of the whole. How many parts of the whole. So it's just like drawing a picture, but it's a little easier because you're just having to draw a number line and you're not shading. So it's an easier tool when you're solving for fractions or when you're solving word problems. Okay, the slides you're going to complete today are 13, 14, 15, and 16. So on 13, you have to label the fraction. So you're going to think 4 out of 4. I'm breaking it down into 4 parts. So my denominator is going to be 4. And then think what your numerator will be each time. You're doing that for 1 and 2, and for 3 and 4. Okay, for 5, 6, 7, and 8, it's the same thing. You're just looking at point A. Think this number line is divided into 8 parts. So my denominator for all of these is going to be what if it's divided into 8 parts? Then your point A, point B, point C, and point D would be your numerator. In this one, Jamal spent 3/4 of his allowance. On the number line, label the fraction that represents the part that Jamal spent. Okay, so you are going to, I'm going to put a circle here. I want you to move that circle to where 3/4 would be. So if I think that's 3/4, if I think this is 3/4, where do I think 3/4 will be? And then the same thing down here. You're going to, on the number line, label the fraction that represents the parts of coins that are quarters. You're just going to move the circle over to the parts that are quarters. Number 10 is just like the one I solved up here, number 11. So number 10 on the homework is just like how I solved number 11. I'm going to put some directions right here. Drag the circle to the point. To the, let's put answer. Oops, I'll move the slide. Okay, if you have any questions, please email your teacher to let them know your questions. And then after this slide, I'll have some IXL practice for you to practice fractions on a number line. So you'll do your homework slides and then also practice your IXL fractions on a number line. I hope y'all have a great day, and we miss you so, so much. Uh-oh. Ignore Miss Pfeiffer. She's trying to stop the video, and I pulled up another video. This is just the math. Y'all have a great day.